Okay, let's start with the second part of this lecture. We will start in the first step of research design, which is the data collection. As we saw in the previous slides, that we have different data collection methods like survey, interviews, questionnaire, observation, action research, and so on. In this part, we will just see an introduction about data collection methods, what we mean by data collection methods, and we will get started with the interviews, which is one of data collection methods. So, primarily, data collection methods, they are ways in which data collected from original sources for the specific purpose of the study can be gathered. So why we are going to collect data? Of course, to do our research, which is our study. So the specific purpose is for study or for the research. The collection of data is from its original sources. For example here, because this book is for a research methodology for business, for example, it gives examples now about the business. Business is likely a social phenomenon. Much of information needed to make decisions in the work setting has to come from people. Of course, most of the management research deal with people. So from where we get or we collect the data, we collect data from people. This is why the survey strategy is very popular in business research and in management at all. The three main data collection methods in survey research are interviews, observation, and questionnaires. So survey is umbrella. Inside this umbrella we have three methods, which are interviews, observation, and questionnaires. A thorough knowledge of these methods will help you to evaluate alternative approaches to primary data collection. So you should know about all these three methods, or at least you get a thorough knowledge. Problems researched with the use of appropriate methods greatly enhance the value of the study. So this means that you should choose the most suitable, the most appropriate method. How can I say this data collection method is most suitable or most appropriate? This is by reading a lot of research in this area or in this topic. So see people what they use, what is the main data collection method that they are using. Okay? And of course, with cooperation of your supervisor or maybe panel of supervisors, they can advise you to use this kind of data collection method. Sometimes you need to contact with some experts in your field. It's not difficult. Sometimes if you see any expert in your field, just take his email and just email him. Maybe you can ask, okay, you can explain your research problem and the thing that you are going to do, and maybe you can ask his advice about the suitable data collection method, and most of them they reply. They happily reply and explain everything for you. So don't be shy and just take the email and send. Okay? So the first part, or the first method, which is used for data collection is the interviews. There should be some guidelines about interviews. There are some types of interviews. An interview is a guided, purposeful conversation. It is a conversation between two people or between you and a group of people. So it's basically a conversation, but it is guided. Means it is not free conversation. You can say what you want, and other one say what he wants. Okay, so it should be guided. Means there should be steps in this interview because it's a formal interview. It is not free conversation. Okay. An interview is a guided, purposeful. You have a purpose for this interview. Okay? You ask the person that you are going to interview or the group of people that, okay, I'm doing a research on this topic and my research is based on data collection from you, so excuse me, please give me some of your time and answer my questions.
So you can say this as just like questionnaires face-to-face.
Yes, it is a type of survey, but it's different from interview. We will see now what are the advantages of interview. It has advantages because you are physically in contact with people. Sometimes in the questionnaire, the person cannot understand the question, and then he replies wrong. But if you interview him, maybe you can explain. If he asks you, okay, what do you mean by this? Then you can explain to him. Okay? So it's a guided, purposeful conversation between two or more people. We have different types of interviews. We have unstructured and structured interviews. What's the difference between them? The unstructured interviews, the interviewer does not enter the interview setting with a planned sequence of questions. There is no plan. There is no sequence of questions. Okay? To be asked of the respondent. The questions, maybe the question comes from the previous question. Okay, ask the first question. Then he reply. Maybe from this question, you get another question.
It's a pre-question.
Yes. And then you just ask him. Then you get another question from his question. So it is unstructured. The questions are not planned before.
No,
Structured interviews conducted when it is known at the outset what information is needed. You have a plan and you have some predefined questions. So you are going to ask predefined questions. The interviewer has a list of predetermined questions to be asked of the respondent either personally, through a telephone or via the computer. Maybe it can be conducted the interview for the phone. It's not necessary to be conducted physically and or via the computer. Of course, there are some advantages and disadvantages if you are doing it personally or through the telephone. Sometimes personally the person becomes shy to answer you, but through the telephone maybe he can say something because he is not in front of you or via the computer. This is the advantage of personal interview. It can clarify doubts about questionnaire. If the respondent has any doubt, something not sure about, then he can ask you to clarify. Please clarify, please explain. Please say what do you mean. Can pick up non-verbal cues. Why? Because you are talking face to face. Maybe you will ask him in your slang language, in your free language. You don't need to use your native language. Okay? So non-verbal cues. It is informal. Maybe you can use your symbol language. Okay? Because you understand him and he can understand you. This is one of the advantages. Relatively high response or cooperation. If you are in front of him, then he can reply to you. He can be shy. I mean, he will respect you and then answer your questions. But if it's not personal, maybe via the telephone, he can say, I'm busy now, I cannot do it. Or this is enough. I answered many questions. Okay, the rest for tomorrow or like this. But if you are in front of him, then his response or cooperation will be high. Special visual aids and scoring devices can be used. This is also very important. Sometimes you can measure the visual effects of the question. Maybe through his face gestures, yes, body language, face And then you can conclude something from these things.
Yes.
Okay. If this question is tough, if this question is get in something you shouldn't ask about. Okay? Disadvantage, it is high cost and time intensive. Maybe you need to travel to some place in order to do the interview, so it's high cost. And time intensive, also it consumes your time and consumes the respondent time. Some people, they are very busy and their time is like money, so it's very difficult to get an appointment for interview. Geographical limitations, maybe you cannot go to the country. Response bias, confidentiality, difficult to be assured. Confidentiality, maybe
Trust.
Yeah, confidentiality, he will not be sure that the result of the interview will be confidential or not. So the response will be somehow constructive. تحفظ يعني بيقولوا أنتوا تحفظ. صعب إنه يجاوب على كل الأسئلة شفافية. This is what we mean by response bias. بيقولوا أنتوا تحيز bias. Some respondents are unwilling to talk to strangers. This is depends on the personality of the person. Okay, maybe he's someone that he doesn't like to talk to stranger. Okay, trained interviewers. You should be trained enough. You should be trained enough. Means you get some courses on how to interview, how to start the interview, how to close the interview.
How to get the answer.
Yes, how to get the answer. How should be your body language.
How to document
it shouldn't be very formal.
Sure.
Because he will not answer you, very formal. Telephone interview advantage, discomfort of face-to-face is avoided. Sometimes it is not preferred to do a face-to-face. So it is good to do a telephone interview. Faster number of calls per day could be high. You can call him many times.
And you can
lower cost.
And also you can contact more.
It has a lower cost because you are sitting in your office. And disadvantage, interview length must be limited because you have very short time to finish.
Can you use social media?
Yes, this is before, this is
As a tool for
this is very formal. Social media is informal. Informal because it is for discussing social things, but we are using it for many different things. From its name, it is for social contact, it's for social communication.
Email.
It's not for work, it's not for...
Email is informal?
No, email is formal, but social. Social media like Facebook, like WhatsApp. It should be social. It shouldn't be involved in your work, but this is what happens with us. So low response rate, disadvantage. Sometimes you will not pick up the phone, okay, or just disconnect the phone.
Busy.
No facial expressions. You cannot understand some things from his face. Facial expressions, so body language. There is a kind of interview called self-administered. Have you heard about it before? Self-administered. Self-administered means you give the questions of the interview, you just send them to this person. And the person administers the interview by himself. See the question and just answer. It's, self, do everything by himself. You just send him the interview questions. This is what happens sometimes with some newspapers. Some newspapers, they just send to you the questions and they ask you to answer the questions. It's not questionnaire, because in questionnaire you have choices.
Oh, by email you can send.
Yes,
Different
by
groups.
email. But it is not like questionnaire, because questionnaire you have to choose from multiple choices. But this is interview. Interview, but they call it self-administered. They give you the questions and you need to
And maybe you will wait for answer for a few days or like this.
Yes, this is we will see the advantage and disadvantage. The advantage is lowest cost option, because you just send by email or by mail. Expanded geographical coverage, so you don't have problem to travel.
Yeah.
Require minimal staff. You don't have to have staff to go and do the interview. Perceived as more anonymous. Anonymous means the respondent maybe cannot reveal his personality. You just distribute the interview questions, and then they can respond to the questions without exposing their identity. Okay? So it is more anonymous, it's without names, without mentioning the names. Disadvantage, it is low response rate in some modes. You are not sure if he will read the email or he will receive the mail and respond. No interviewer intervention possible for clarification. If something is understood in different way, then there is no way for clarification. Because he's away. Cannot be too long or complex, because if it's too long or complex, you will just throw. It is not an exam, it is just an interview. And sometimes incomplete. Answer some questions and maybe be conservative about some other questions. You prefer not to answer the other questions, but if you are in front of him, then it's different. You have any questions? We have also different kind of interviews called group interviews. You heard about focus groups. This is an idiom. Focus groups. Okay, focus groups consist typically of 8 to 10 members with a moderator leading the discussion on a particular topic, concept, or product. Usually in social sciences. It's not in science, I mean in scientific research like our research. We don't have this kind of groups or group interviews, because in group interviews there is a leader or moderator, maybe a professor, with 8 to 10 members. They just discuss about particular topic, concept, or product. From this discussion, maybe you can get some information about something. And you just sit down away and just record what they are talking about, their opinions. This is what they call focus group. Focus group research is a generic term for any research that studies how a group of people talk about a clearly defined issue. An expert panel is a group of, this is a different kind, expert panel. It's a group of people specifically convened by the researcher to elicit expert knowledge and opinion about a certain issue. Or maybe you can make a group of experts and let them discuss about some issue, certain issue, and then you just, the researcher, just take their opinion about this issue. And from their opinion, he can conclude something or say something. But all these things, focus group and expert panel, is more for social sciences. العلوم الإنسانية، العلوم الاجتماعية، مش العلوم التخصصات العلمية تبعها. التخصصات العلمية تبعنا تعتمد على تجربة أكثر يعني.